You're listening to the Play Space Podcast with Dr. Gregory Bell and Marc Clarke.
All debt is paid.
Ring, ring, ring goes the money tree. Welcome to Play Space. This is going to you. This is going out to Dr. Greg.
Ching, ching, ching goes the money tree.
Ching, ching,
and
ching.
every time it chings, money comes to me.
Welcome to Play Space. I'm Marc Clarke, and that there is Dr. Greg Bell. What's up, Greg? How you doing, bro?
What's up, Mark? How you feeling on this Super Saturday, man?
Man, I'm all is well. All is well. All is well. And
I am absolutely excellent.
It's our first episode of Play Space, and I know people are, what does that mean? Who are you? So we'll start off with that. Who are we? Let's start with you, Dr. Bell. Who are we? Who are you?
Well, Mark, thank you for that bounce pass. I'm actually an adult that's hidden an adult as a child who wants to play, and I want to play every day. By the way, you too should take time to play, because in your play space, whether it's your home, whether it's a school, whether it's your community or your workplace, find that balance. All work and no play makes for a dull day. So I want to play, whether I play alone, solitarily, whether I play parallel, side by side with my Walkman, Marc Clarke, whether we are associative, and that is us interacting with each other with some language, or we're cooperative, where we have that opportunity to do some make-believe play. And then we can tie all that together, Mark, in terms of eclectically. This is about a platform about lifestyles. And we're going to be talking to you. That's right. Whether you are a young child or whether you're an adult, we're here to play.
And so, Doc, tell us about who you are and your story.
Yeah, but what my story is one that, as a native Washingtonian, growing up in the northeast part of Washington, D.C., first starting off on Capitol Hill on Constitution Avenue, and moving up then to the upper part of northeast called Riggs Park, where I spent a lot of my childhood. And that was an experience that really had a transformation for me. And so part of the real story, though, is I have a mantra, which is focus on your vision, not your sight, because I want people to know that you can pursue excellence, no matter what you have and what you're confronted with. In your play space, we all have issues. And I always say, when we have issues, throw a capital T in front of those issues, because my issue was that I had an eyesight challenge since 8 years old. And I've celebrated now. I've celebrated 56 years of being legally blind. That's right. For you who know me, you say, well, what do you mean, Greg, legally blind? Well, I was not blind to the point that I needed a seeing eye dog, or that I could read Braille or needed to read Braille, or even that I even had a white cane. What I had was eyeglasses that allowed me to see 20/200, because I could never see, Mark, nothing more than the big E on that eye chart since 8 years old. As early as 1964, they diagnosed that at the National Institute of Health. And I am grateful, and very, very grateful for the two parents, Marion and Clifton Bell, my mom and dad, and for my brother Tyrone, my sister Gwen, and my younger brother Mike, who gave me that sense of focus on your strength, not your weaknesses. So we'll be talking more about that as we deal with the play space, because some people know me as an athlete, some know me as a scholar, and then some know me when they say, party, 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 make the holler on that dollar.
All right, Greg. I love what you say and how you say it. So again, who am I? Well, I'm Marc Clarke, and I'm a 30-year plus media veteran, mainly radio. I grew up in Springfield, Illinois, where I wanted to pursue this radio thing, and I had a chance to do it working in different cities from New York to Baltimore to Washington, D.C. I fell in love with a beautiful woman in St. Louis who would become my wife, who's also in media. And she's a news anchor in Washington, D.C. We've been married over 20 years. We got 3 lovely kids, 2 lovely dogs. And at the end of the day, I consider myself, what I'm most proud of is being, I think, a great dad and hopefully a great husband and a pretty good communicator. And so I'm excited to get a chance to play with Dr. Bell in Play Space. And like Dr. Bell said, this is a place where we have fun, we educate, we entertain, we keep it real. We converse. We conversate, and really, it really is a play space. Like Doc said, if you don't, a lot of times with everything that's going on, especially with COVID and all the stressors that we have out there, we don't make time to play. And so we hopefully can be your place where you can let it all out, hopefully learn something and share with us. Okay, so that's who we are, and that's what Play Space is. So, Doc, let's hop into our first topic. And I don't want to be morbid, but we had a lot of people, man, a lot of amazing figures who we lost in the last couple of weeks or so. And I wanted to just hop on and talk about it, because I think what I love about our show is, our perspectives, you're in your 60s, I'm in my 50s. You feel like sometimes our perspective isn't really heard out there as much. And I think we both are. The cool part about us is we have kids and grandkids. And so we're kind of connected on from the 20-year-olds to the 70, 80, 90-year-olds. And I think we're able to give our perspective. And I think we can get some insight. So when I see a Hank Aaron, Doc, when I saw him pass, I said, man, I can't wait to hear Doc's take, because I know you have, a whole different take than I do, because you're 10 years older. So Hank Aaron, Doc, when I say Hank Aaron, what does that mean to you?
So when I think about Hank Aaron, Mark, what I think about is a legacy. What I think about is history. What I think about is the reality. And I also think about the mystery. The history of Hank Aaron. What does that mean to be able to be an African-American ball player playing in the major leagues with a vision of making a difference in his family's life, as well as the life of others? Because, baseball, which at times was considered America's sport. When you think about baseball, you think about being able to go to the old ball game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the park. Thinking about
peanuts and Cracker Jack.
And don't leave my man Marc Clarke behind. So there it is, Play Space, in the play of history. The real deal is that he had a destiny. He knew that in order to become a pro, and we're going to be talking about that in terms of pro, in Play Space, we have you who are professionals, but we also know that as an athlete, he used that as his livelihood. So therefore, in order to do that, he had to deal with what I call preparation. But he also had to deal with the development of his skill set. He had to really deal with the history of what he was living through, because remember now, he was in his 80s when he passed. So if we think 80 years ago and we think about the history, think about this for a minute. You're a baseball player like Hank Aaron, African-American, trying to make a difference in his family life, but also the life of others. And he actually was getting 3,000 threats a day for wanting to break Babe Ruth's record. Now, Babe Ruth, as you think about as a white American, he was one who was hitting home runs out of the park. The magical number, though, Mark, was 715. In order to hit that 715th home run, and it has been played throughout the entire week. But here's what happened. He was getting death threats for trying to reach a mark in his life that was the kind of goal and vision that he was trying to set. But his real goal was to try to be a role model for African Americans and for all people, but specifically African American ball players. That in fact, if you get an opportunity to have an access and be invited to play because of your skill sets in the major league, no societal threats of 3,000 death threats per day was coming for him not to break that record. And if you watch that video, of him running the bases when he hit that 715th home run, he had two white Americans running behind him on the baseball field. Timeout, coach. Mark, timeout. Do you know what it's like and would have been like for me and you to be behind a ball player or a major league game? Was it out of celebration? Was it out of fear? The question is, how did they have access to the field? So it depends. We enter the conversation, Mark, and we exit the conversation at a different level. But certainly, Hank Aaron was a role model. He was a moral model for us in history, and he definitely lived his reality. And there's no mystery about the impact that he has had, even with his relationship with the commissioner of baseball. And by the way, to get a standing ovation in Alabama as an African-American who just broke Babe Ruth's record was something that was a significant symbolism in our society.
Yeah, man. So I knew that you'd have a take on Hank Aaron. And so then we lost Cicely Tyson, who, again, similar in that I think the one thing about the celebrities of that generation, they were more, they were super conscious. And like you said, they used their platform to be more than just an actress, to be more than just an athlete. Maybe it was a generational thing, but I think of Cicely Tyson and I was thinking, man, her roles changed the world. You know, the perspective that she showed. Miss Jane Pittman, Allison talked about that today. We were talking about it and got emotional because she was saying she realized that defiant scene in the movie with Miss Jane Pittman when she decided to drink out of the white fountain was like, she said she realized that impacted her whole life. When she was in situations where she had to deal with racism or people were trying to deny her, she thought of the defiance of Miss Jane Pittman. I mean, obviously the character that Cicely Tyson played, and she brought that to, and she also talked about the power of sounder. So I know you got to take Doc on Cicely Tyson.
Well, I actually do, Mark. Again, I mean, as we play, you do that. You actually have provided me with an opportunity that really gets me emotional because, while I talk about my sight impairment, I really want to just say that, but for the grace of God, it is really about the faith, family, and focus.
Come on.
So one of the things, one of the things that you talked about in the introduction, and I talked about my parents, I talked about my siblings, but when I think about the love I have for my oldest daughter, Dorothy, and then for Camilla, when I think about them, who really are now, Camilla's getting ready to turn 30 on April 28th, and Dorothy will be 34 on August 7th. As I think about that, and then my grandson, Zeus, who's 15 months and 9 days old. When I think about that, the reason why I bring that up is because we are a direct reflection of our worldview. And our worldview comes from this. How about being a legally blind guy at 8? Diagnosed with no center sight. I used to walk in the classroom and not be able to see the chalkboard. That's right. I had to get there early. And I think about a person like Cicely Tyson, and I think about Roots, her role in Roots. As I think about that, and I think about what that was to have Alex Haley as the graduation speaker for me at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC. That's right. I'm a retriever. I think about that as the impact on my life. And I think about what she really represented. What she represented was, again, being a role model for playing the roles that she only wanted to play. See, she's an actress. So in being an actress, you had to prepare yourself. Again, in this platform, we're going to talk about the preparation for success in life, the development of your success in life, and what skill sets you need to be able to have that, and what resources you need to have. For her to be 96 years old, that's right, take it. Almost a century, 100 years ago, she was born, and she had a conversation with her mother. When you think about that, Mark, she was on a walk, and the story is told that one walked up to her and said, you keep your eye on that young lady. She's going to make a difference someday in life. Now, that is in her early infancy and toddlerhood, right? Her first 3 years of life. But I believe that when you focus on the words and the actions that you take, Cicely Tyson said, I am not in this for the money. I am in it for, here's her words. How do you want to be remembered, Cicely Tyson? And she said, I want to remember by, I have done my best. Think about that, Mark, and play space. And Sounder, and Mrs. Jane Pittman. Think about that, man. Roots, to be in the audience at UMBC in 1978. I knew then that I had to follow a dream and a legacy of people like Alex Haley and Cicely Tyson. And don't forget Oprah Winfrey, because Oprah and Tyler Perry had comments on the impact of Cicely Tyson on their lives and their careers. So in Play Space, we're going to talk about childhood. We're going to be talking about college experiences and careers. And college is not for everyone. So we're also going to be talking about military and anyone's pathway and trying to get those strategies and put that together. Cicely Tyson was truly a model for that kind of messaging.
Well, Doc, and then again, not to be morbid, but I think, like you said, the legacy and the impact of these people so great, we got to talk about it. So we just lost John Chaney, snuck up on us. John Chaney at Temple. And again, I know you as an athlete and as an athlete from a certain generation, you realize the impact of a John Chaney at Temple.
Well, I can tell you, Mark, when you talk about athleticism, I have had the opportunity of having people tell me that too bad Greg lost his sight, because if not, I may have had some opportunities to play pro. Now, people don't know, I still play pro. I played PROFESSOR. But I know that I had people that I went to school with, like Adrian Dantley, who played actually at the Mather, Notre Dame, and then played in the NBA and was the leading scorer for 5 years in the NBA. You know, I know when Adrian played varsity at the Mather. And I thought about that in terms of the people who were recruiting Adrian Dantley. I guarantee you move forward to other athletes like Eddie Jordan at Archbishop Carroll. See, I played freshman ball at the Mather. And say, sometimes people don't know, Mark.
Not the D.
Come on, man. This is a freshman D. This ain't the big D now. This is the freshman D. This is the D that a guy named Larry Hogan, who was the governor, who is the governor in the state of Maryland, my classmate in 1970 when we were in Morgan Wooten's class, right? And then you're talking about John Chaney, right? And I think about a guy named Eric Cord, who was our go-to guy at the Mather. But Larry was our manager. But he worked AD out after practice with Morgan Wooten, because people like John Chaney was definitely on the list. And then Eddie Jordan, called him Speedy Eddie, who went to Rutgers and played in the NBA and came back home and coached for the Wizards. When I think about people like Greg Roberts, my classmate, who actually, not classmate, he was a year ahead of me. It was my teammate. But I think about things like this, Mark, when you think about John Chaney. I think about this practice jersey of 1972 from Coolidge, man.
Man, that's from 1972. Looked like the Moss got it, man.
1972, the Moss. But guess what? I was a graduation speaker 5 years ago. When you asked about John Chaney was like my coach, Frank Williams. By the way, see, at the Mather in 1970, I had a chance to walk on 15 ball players. I got a chance to walk on. I wasn't recruited. At Carroll, I walked on, was not recruited, JV. But I transferred to Mac, and my parents said, no way. John Chaney, how does that tie in? It's because John Chaney recruited Coolidge ball player to play at Temple. But guess what? The ball player who played at Temple with John Chaney also knew that John was not only an athlete, he was a scholar. He played with the Harlem Globetrotters. And when you think about it, he used to practice as early as 4 a.m. Can you imagine being a college basketball player and having to come to practice at 4 a.m? What does that mean? The words of this podcast, Play Space, you may have place. You got to be there at 4. You had to be on time. And then you had to make sure that you had the space in your head to know that you had to have the discipline to do what you need to do to be part of the Temple Owls. That's right. John Chaney was committed to that, and he was not one who bit his tongue about academic excellence and preparing ball players for their life. He was actually a true role model out of Philadelphia.
John Chaney. And so, again, it's interesting because we're talking about people who passed away, but at the end of the day, like I said, it's the impact. So for me, this one here, Larry King, being from Springfield, Illinois. And like you said, Doc, these people, what they stand for, what they did, they have, you impact people's lives and have no idea. Larry King has no idea who Marc Clarke is. And here's the funny part. No, Marc Clarke is my stage name. You know what people call me in high school?
What?
Larry.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Go ahead,
my
man.
real name is Lawrence Johnson, aka Larry Johnson. So
go ahead, Mark.
Larry King, when growing up in Springfield, Illinois, I knew I wanted to do radio. I'm talking about like early on. The lineup was, Howard Cosell influenced me, Bryant Gumbel influenced me, a brother called Jockenstein out of East St. Louis influenced me, and I got a chance to actually work with Jockenstein after I graduated from college. 5 years later, I was working with him. But Larry King, for me, what happened was, so the reality was, I had all these big plans. I was going to graduate and go to Howard. I didn't know anything about Howard. I ordered the package. It came, and I thought because it was a HBCU, it was going to be cheaper than the regular schools, but it was not. And my grades were not good either. Why? Because I worked around radio people, and they didn't even go to college. So they were like, you don't even have to go to college. So in my mind, I wasn't trying as hard as I should have been. Mm. And so I go to junior college, and I since I was at home, I went out to the radio station and I asked them, are they hiring? And they were hiring, because at the time wasn't no black folks nowhere around. And I realized they probably looked for, hey, come on in, young man. And
sure.
Because of that, and again, the craziest part was, Doc, this is for everybody out there. A lot of times when you want to know how to pursue something and there's nobody to talk to, you just need to go to the horse's mouth.
Absolutely.
If you want to work somewhere, you're curious about it, go knock on the door and say hi. If you're a young person, you'll be amazed that people, even an old person, people are pretty impressed when you just go and you have the gumption to make a move like that. And so I did. I knocked on the door. I said, hey. They said, boom. Next thing you know, I'm working there. I'm board op, and I was a overnight board op for the Larry King Show. And
yes.
I got a chance to listen to Larry King do what he does. Those interviews. Yes. I got to find out about who he was. He had gambling problems. He had serious health problems. I got to know about his kids, who sadly, he lost 2 of his children last year in 2020. Wow. And so Larry King was really, he had this big influence on me because he was somebody I listened to every day and started to get ideas about what it is to be a professional radio guy. And so, he basically, like I said, he had serious health issues in the middle of his life. He was married like 5 or 6 or 7 times. Yeah. He had a gambling problem. He went through it all. But at the end of the day, he was a survivor, and he lived a heck of a life, and he influenced many people. So again, I say I stand on the shoulders of broadcasters like this, because when you're from a small town sometimes and you don't have, again, those real people, these other people become the influences in your life. And it can't be denied, it can't be denied.
Absolutely. And Mark, I think that when you say that, first of all, you make some very strong points for our audience. There are things in your life right now that you want to do, and you tend to have some type of personal roadblocks. And one roadblock that you may have been the same roadblock that I had, which was fear. And fear in of itself is an acronym that I utilize, which is false evidence appearing real. And as I begin to think about it, here's how I would help you. If I think that what Mark just said about being an intern and having that name Larry, working with Larry King, Mark, I first met you when you were the king of hip hop in Baltimore, when we were at the Reginald Lewis Museum, and you were emceeing the show for the program for the African-American newspaper, who was then the CEO, President Jake Oliver, when we had this diversity essay contest. And I want to say something to you. As I think about Reginald Lewis, who was a very prominent African-American philanthropist, and he actually was from Baltimore, but had an impact on the lives of a lot of people. When you talk about Larry King, there's a sister who was Larry King's manager named Judy Thomas, who actually was in Montgomery County, who lives in Montgomery County, Maryland. I will tell you, the resources that you have available to you, our audience, are 3 resources in order for you to be successful to overcome that fear. Human resources, environmental resources, and material resources. And Marc just illustrated that coming from a small town, it doesn't make a difference whether our audience is from suburban, urban, or rural America. It doesn't make a difference. We know that you're coming from a location and you're entering a situation at different vantage points. But you want to make sure that you at least do what Marc said that Larry King had. Take a gamble and gamble on yourself. Because what I had to do is I had to move my gamble of my self-esteem from 8 years old and being able to walk around with eyeglasses on like this. Back then, people knew me with black frame eyeglasses, Marc. And when I think about Larry King, I used to always watch him because I always like to hear how people ask questions like him and Oprah, as the who question, the what question, the why question, the where question, the when question, and the how question. And people would ask me, so how did you do what you did as a scholar athlete? How do you get a PhD at 27 years old? Here you are, African-American with 2 parents and siblings. And when I think about my 2 beautiful daughters and my grandson, my story, Marc, we need to have that play space. So, because I think about your story and how we came together as 2 brothers who were just complimenting each other with positivity. When I think about your wife, Marc, on Get Uplifted, when she does her show in the morning on Channel 9, I think about what she does, positivity. So I knew that these glasses would not help me as much at 12 years old as this paperweight. That's right. I'm going full disclosure. I'm being vulnerable with the family, friends, and foes. That's right. Not everybody who are going to want you to succeed is going to be a proponent of what you want to do. Larry King was one of those guys that he came with all his issues. And everyone listening to the show has an issue. But this right here is signified in 1968 at 12 years old. I found this on the desk at a summer Washington youth job, and I used this to magnify my print. And from 12 years old in 1968 to 1984, when I went to Ohio State University and graduated with a PhD at 27, I went into the bathroom and read my dissertation with this because I could not read the print of my 5 chapters, Marc, with these eyeglasses. I took a gamble. Marc, and the gamble that you utilize talking about Larry King, the gamble sometimes is a gamble on yourself. So our audience, you don't have to gamble anymore. Take a chance, take a risk, reach out to us, because between Marc and I and our play space, we got human resources, environmental resources, and material resources that can help your child and that can help you. Larry King was a role model. He took the gamble, but he was able to do what he needed to do. And I know that he impacted a lot of lives in what he did.
Oh, wait a minute, Doc. No, you didn't. Well, look, that's the very first, that's the historic, that's in the record books. Oh, Lord, it's started now. You done put Dr. Greg and Marc Clarke together with some positive energy? What? Man, we got big plans. So here's the deal. You need to check out our website. Mine is reinventingmarcclarke.com. Dr. Bell.
I am at pursueexcellent.com.
Pursueexcellent.com.
And that's PURSUEEXCELLENT.com. Now, I will tell you, those words equal 100 points. And in our play space, we will be telling you about the significance of being able to be Dr. 100% on the speaking circuit. 99.5 is not what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you 100%, or I ain't going to give you anything at all. Come and join us on Play Space.
Tell everybody about Play Space. New podcasts every Monday and Wednesday. They drop on our websites and everywhere you get podcasts. Again, we got big plans.
From the top.
Hello, world.
And under me. Wave, I'm a money wave. Money flow, money made. Flowing in and out, plus money saved. Debt, all debt is paid.